Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Power Mindset interview series with my good friend of mine, Christine Grover. I met Christine way back in 2013
Think you're
in beautiful
dating us.
Panama. It's been a while when we were both teaching at the Metropolitan School of Panama, and I had the honor and privilege of teaching her amazing son, Charles, who was a fabulous and joy to work with. And at that time, Christine was our guidance counselor, right? Coming off a stint as a vice principal. And she's always been someone who had a very strong presence, kind of combination of strong vision with a kindness and sweetness, always willing to help others. And has always been one of my favorite colleagues to work with. So I'm so pleased to have her have a conversation with us. Christine Grover, welcome to the Power Mindset. Please tell us your story.
Well, thanks so much for having me. It's nice to be here. My story is kind of weaving all over the place. So my original undergraduate degrees were in psychology and business. Always loved psychology, but I had no idea what to do with it. And I didn't have a counselor. So I double majored in business and went into sales in the business world, human resources. But it wasn't until I had my children and my first son, my oldest son, was diagnosed with dyslexia in kindergarten. And the people came back and they said, geez, he may or may not graduate high school. He has severe dyslexia, ADHD. Um, he's got some real problems, and I'm a person who I need to jump in. So the more research I did, the more learning I did, the more I wrapped around it, the more I worked with him. I discovered that I fell in love with education. And went off from there. And just to end the story, he went to college, he graduated, he's doing wonderful. And with the right treatment, by the end of third grade, he was reading at a seventh grade level. So the power of education got into my soul. So I taught for years, became principal, did that for a while. And interestingly enough, when I came to the Met, the head of school at the time asked me, he said, if you could do any job, what job would it be? And I said, oh, I would love to be a counselor because my favorite part of being a principal was working with the kids. And he said, well, great, we need one of those. So I went back, I got my master's in counseling, worked with the kids through middle school, and then it was nearing high school. And they said, hey, they need help with that college stuff. Could you do that as well? So went back to school again, got another degree, and eventually got to the point where the job had to be split, either the social emotional school counselor or move into college counseling. And I had worked so hard building up the college counseling program, I couldn't give it up. So there I've been. Both boys graduated college, relocated back to Florida. So I moved back here and am currently director of college counseling at Trinity.
Wow, what a story. I want you to expand on a couple of things. Um, Tell us about specifically how was life pre-education? What was life like in as in your business world, working in the private sector? How was life like? What did you like about it? What did you not like about it? Tell us what life was like then.
Yeah, I did well. I was earning decent money, but I was clearly in the wrong position. I was in sales. I'm a person, I'm not competitive by nature, which makes me a great counselor. I wanted everybody to win. And I started to really dislike what I was doing. And every Sunday at like noon, I felt like this cloud came over me. And I thought, oh no, like I've got to go back and do that again on Monday. And this is always a surprise to the students that I've been working with, who are like, oh, you're so happy, you're so joyful. So I had definitely picked a position really because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I thought that earning lots of money would make me happy. And that was not the case.
So before your years, let's say between before you became a counselor, your years as a principal and as a teacher in the classroom, how did that shift in terms of your overall happiness in comparison to your life in the business industry?
Tremendously. I would wake up excited to go to work. I love what I do, helping, molding, working with students, really fed my soul. It gave me so much joy. Even to this day, occasionally I have a student from the Met even reach back out to me who's off in the world and say, I just wanted you to know how thankful I am. It's going to make me cry. You changed the trajectory of my life. What could be more valuable to me? That's priceless. So getting to work with students has been amazing.
So let's deep digger into your world you're in now, right? Your world as a counselor. And I want you to talk to us about what what specifically talked to you about that role? Like what was it about counseling that really connected to you as a person? And maybe talk a little bit about the differences between social emotional and the cause counseling and what's cross skills you use from your time, even if you don't go back to your time in your world in business and how it serves you in your role today.
Yeah, it all kind of meshed together and built up who I am and where I was going. So the social emotional aspect of having someone come see you and having them leave better and helping them was not that different than my role as a college counselor. Um, Always helping the students, but what I do love about this role is I am a lifelong learner. I'm always back in school, and you can never know enough. So even, this year I understand most of the colleges, what they're looking for. It will change again next year. So it really fills my, thirst for knowledge, and it's never a job where you kind of lean back and you're like, okay, I got this. I know how to do this. I've learned what I can learn because it is forever changing.
And when you see your students, right, when they come into your door, right, tell us a little bit about where they come in and from your interaction with them, how you hope they leave.
How they hope they leave.
Yeah,
Uh,
maybe I don't know after one, but like after they're finished with you, what do you want them to leave with?
oh, in a bigger picture.
Hmm.
So I want them to know that they can do anything, to not be limited. Sometimes if something as simple as a student's reaching for a particular school and it may at this point be out of reach directly, but not to give up. So to give them the other tools, you can always transfer, you can move forward. I want them to learn resilience, to learn that a no isn't a no forever. It just might mean a no right now. So to leave with the power to know that they're in charge of controlling their own future.
And I'm gonna tie some before we move on. I want to tie back to that first memory when you talked about your son and you having to fight for him because he had dyslexia, which my daughter has as well. Didi has as well. So I understand that kind of that balance that you have. Fortunately for Didi, her mother is in the school, so you know nothing's gonna go past.
Yeah.
Kathleen won't have it, right? Kathleen won't have it. So
Yeah.
how did that experience guide you or shape you in terms of how you deal with your students today?
I mean, I think that initial diagnosis, right, as a parent, was scary. And I kind of embrace change by, okay, what is it I can control? What can I do? How can I fix this? How can I research? How can I dive in and tackle this? Um, And that's really, that same I can do this um, kind of goes through everything that I've done work wise. Um,
Okay. You lead me to a very perfect segue into in my business, my company, we're trying to empower mindsets in young people. That's our mission for our company. But mindset has a very wide-ranging concept and interpretation. So before we continue talking about mindset, just as they say in good essay terms, define your terms, right? How would you define the idea or concept of mindset?
Yeah, to me, some people take away that, the positive mindset that I must always be positive, I must always feel great. And to me, the mindset is getting back up. Feel your feelings, take that moment, take that hit, reflect on it, but then have the resilience to maybe reflect, what can I do better? What can I learn? What message am I supposed to get from this, and how I can eventually refocus it and move forward, and then look back on something that might have been upsetting at the time, and look back, just like that example of the difference of that moment that changed the trajectory for the better. But I think had you asked me that day, hey, you need to have a positive mindset, um, I think I would have been angry and shook. And so I do believe it's great to feel those feelings, have that moment, but then not stay there. So to me, that's what I think about when I think about positive mindset.
That is fabulous. So for me, it's the resilience piece that resonates the most with you. Am I reading it correct?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So you have a very unique position to the world, I think, as a guidance counselor. And what specific, you're in high school, that's correct, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So you're looking at the young leaders of our world today. And so you guess you look through life through their eyes in a little bit of way. When you see the current state of the world that they're in, look at this social media, you look at like what the job market's like, what the school concepts are like, how AI fits into this. How do you see the world today and and where kids' mindsets need to be to attack that world?
Well, I have to say, working with the students gives me hope, right? Because you can look around, and the world's a bit of a scary place right now. And with how fast things are changing with AI, I think it's more important than ever um, that the students are able to kind of step back, maybe look at glass half full. Maybe I can't fix the whole world, but what can I do? Like, what's one thing I can do to positively affect something around me, to stay in that space of things are going to be okay and I still have power, rather than to let some of the negativity and all the exposure to all the social media roll over them. So I think it's definitely more difficult, um, for this generation with the access to information they have for good and bad. Um,
It's fascinating, Christina. The other day I was with my daughter. We were watching a movie, and I did something wrong with the television, right? So I think I put it in the wrong, like I put it at the wrong station or put it in the wrong setting. And my daughter's like, Dad, my goodness, like I'm like, Didi, it's gonna take you honestly an extra three buttons to push and 10 seconds. Right?
right,
Like
right.
I said before when we communicate before internet, I had to write a letter to my cousin in Trinidad, send it away for 3 weeks. They would read it and I would get another 3 weeks communication. Now you get the
Yeah.
2 minutes.
If you were lucky. Yeah.
If you were lucky, right? If everything went smooth. And that level of patience was like, you would have thought that I did something terrible to my daughter just by missing a button.
Yeah.
But it comes to a greater point in terms of Are the institutions today, and let's look at all institutions, family institutions, educational institutions, recreational institutions, do you think we're preparing our kids to face the world, the modern world today? Do you think they're going, do you think the pathway that they're proceeding gives them a chance to have success?
Like to think so, but I definitely think there are things that are lacking. I love to find a way to do things better. I think anxiety rates across the world and the youth are through the roof, especially post COVID. Did it have something to do with that? Or is it just all of the exposure to all of the information they have all the time? I think of, when I was growing up, if I heard two of my friends went out to lunch and didn't invite me, you might be like, oh, geez, but to see the whole world posting their best moments or even possibly moments that weren't that great, but you have that snapshot of that big smile of somebody being somewhere. I think it's very difficult as humans to look at all of that and then have those things we're struggling with and then have it appear like the rest of the world, everybody else is so amazing and so happy and having so much fun, because I don't, on social media, I haven't found that a lot of people are real about their struggles. There's this persona, this Snapchat moment, this what's my story of look how great I am and look how great my life is. Um, so the perception that something's wrong with me if I'm having a tough day, I think is really hard for kids.
It is. And I always think about this, Christina. When I was in high school, I used to work at a recreation center, right? So I would look at like I would watch the basketball and the volleyball games. I set the courts up and stuff. And one day I was running late and my shoes were untied. And my one of my coworkers said, Jeff, your shoes are untied. I said, I'll tie it when I get to the gym, right? The gym is full of people. And I did a Superman trip dive across across the gym, right?
Oh
Slid
no.
and everything, like the full the full slide.
Yep.
And everyone just erupted with laughter. The laughter blew the roof off the building.
Oh yeah.
And I was just thinking, what if that happened in 2025?
We break a hip. No, I don't know.
In 2 minutes, that would be all over the world,
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh yeah. Uh,
And it's there forever,
yep.
right?
Yeah.
And I think that type of pressure of not feeling free to make a mistake, to trip on your laces, right?
Right.
To fall down, I think is a level of anxiety that me as a dad, you as a college counselor is going to have to deal with. How would you advise kids to deal with that aspect of their world?
Yeah, that I mean there is a whole level. They have to be more careful. We always say we were, I grew up when we could be stupid before it was recorded for the whole world. Um, to take that moment, even reflecting something as simple as a text or an email or a response to something on social media. Um, Take a moment, breathe, don't write right back. Um, View everything that somebody puts out there on social media. Even part of the college process, we say, hey, the colleges might be looking you up. Don't put anything out there that you wouldn't send to your grandparents. Um, and if something's recorded, somebody posts something of you. I mean, there's like that fall. Um, Maybe to try to find the funny in it. If it's a situation like that, to learn to laugh at ourselves and to know that people aren't perfect and it's okay not to be perfect. If we were all perfect, the world would be so boring, and how would you continue to learn? So understanding those things. But what do they say? In a world where you can be anything, be kind.
I
It,
totally agree with that. Kathleen
yeah.
liked to remind me of that as well. Um, I deal with a lot of parents as well. I'm sure you do as well.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of parents at like my age, they're going through that transition, right? Where they picked up social media maybe between 15 and 25, and they're raising kids who are raised on it, right? What guidance would you give to parents and how to navigate this kind of world today?
Parents to help with their children or parents to help themselves. Yeah.
Take it both, take it either way you want to go with it.
Either. Yeah. I think we need to model a lot of these behaviors. The kind of other saying is that kids never do what you say, they always do what you do. If you, something as simple as if you don't want your children texting and driving, you cannot do that as a parent. Put the phones away when you're sitting down for dinner. Resist the urge to always put that, iPhone, iPad, the phone in the hands of the kids. I get, having raised two boys, dying for a moment of peace. We all do our best. But I think we need to step away from this a little bit more, and interact a little more. I worry. I'll see a group of my students out to dinner, and they're at dinner and they're all down on their phones. They're not talking to each other. They're not looking around the restaurant. They're not people watching. Sometimes I see families do the same. Um, so as a parent, I need to live what I want my kids to live, and teach boundaries with that, I think.
No, I think that's a great advice. And I think for parents, it's hard to reflect, right? It's hard to reflect the fact that where are these kids learning this behavior, right? Is it only their friends or are you demonstrating that as well?
Right. And
Uh,
if parents say, oh no, it's okay, oh wait, oh, it's my phone, I'm working, in the middle of a conversation with their kid. I don't know. I'm still fighting the Apple Watch thing. I think it's got lots of amazing things, but the thought that 24/7, at least if my phone's away, I'm not looped in. But having that on my body vibrating all the time, I think pulls you back into that digital world and away from those around you.
It's one of the things that we teach in our course is we kind of build your habits up to where you get a good morning routine, right? And I always try to get like my daughter to say before you have said something entering into your system, get yourself in a good space first, right? Like breathe, do some drawing, do some singing, do something that you're creating, either receiving a positive light for yourself or you're creating good energy by doing something creative before these other inputs happen. Because what I believe is that if we're not conscious of kids of their mindsets and we just leave it open to it, that you have no idea what's influencing your kid's mindset. How would you advise parents, educators, and young people themselves to create a healthy mindset as you define resilient mindset for them to be successful in life?
Yeah, I think it's very individual. What works. There's tons of techniques out there. Like you said, getting yourself in a good mood. Um, I like to blast music. You see me on the way to work, I'm singing away. um, Whether you're practicing being thankful and grateful. So whatever trick, I always think of it is that learning how to pivot, um, and everything from the thoughts you say to yourself. So I'll work with students who will come in and, they'll say, I'm bad and I'm all these negative things. And I said, would you ever say that to your best friend? And they're like, no, my best friend's wonderful there. And I said, well, why are you allowing yourself to say those things to you? And so I work with them through think of pivoting, of actually physically taking a step and pivot on that foot and turn around. Try to do that in your head. Try to catch yourself. And physically, if there's somebody who's being unkind, using that pivot, walk away. If there's something on social media that's filling you with negativity, delete it, remove it. Because it's so important. We focus a ton on, what food are we putting in our bodies to run our machines. I think it's the same way with what are we putting in our brains. If we want them to run optimally, if we want to function well, we need to feed that with good things, whatever it is that gives someone peace, makes them happy, to rely on those things to maintain that positive, the ability to be positive.
And be resilient.
Yep.
Yeah, it's very interesting because I'm telling my daughter who's gone through a, let's call it a friendship transition these last couple of days, right?
Oh,
And so I tell her like when I'm doing my work and I hit a stumbling block, right? You just get a block. You're like, okay, I have no idea how to do this. And sometimes you go through that record in your head saying like, oh man, you're messing up again, you're messing up again. I said when I hear myself going that, I stop and do 10, right? And I said it could be 10 anything, 10 claps, 10
oh,
breaths, 10 push-ups, sit up and down 10 times, just change the energy, right? And refocus, right? Refocus. So that's how I try to do it. Say stop and do 10, right? And that kind of it's a physical signal to my brain that where you're going is not where that's not gonna help me where I need to go. So the reframing is really, really a powerful tool and I believe in terms of creating resilient and healthy mindsets. Christina, this has been an absolute treasure. I always enjoy my time with you. I'm allow you to have the floor. Your final thoughts that you like to leave to people to develop a resilient, healthy mindset. Floor is yours.
thanks so much. Yeah, my message to kids is don't ever let anyone tell you you can't do anything. There's lots of ways to get there. Um, Follow your passion. Um, and it's okay if you don't have one, keep looking. It will find you if you're open to it. And be kind to each other. I do, just a little bit on that back note that you were saying, of your daughter's friend transition. I think it's super important for parents to remember, the developing brain of the teenager. What would be upsetting to us in their brain is like times 100. And it's hard to say, like, why are you freaking out about that? To them, it's so big. So give them the moment to grieve, hear them, um, teach them skills to rally out of that, and they will come around, and to not, it's hard not to, as a parent, not to minimize those feelings. Like, okay, so you had a fight with a friend, why is this such a huge deal? And then I reframe myself, through, as a psychologist, I'm like, oh, okay, this is a chemical brain reaction. To them, this is a huge deal. Feel it, let's work through it, and teach them that ability to move on and use all those amazing skills that are out there. to know how great every one of them are and that teenage years will pass.
It's so interesting. I was telling my wife this. In Dee Dee's world, she's been alive for 9 years, right? This girl's been a part of her life for about 3.5, 4 years. It's equivalent to a divorce.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? In her world, like in her 9 years of life,
Yep.
right? And what she means to her the last couple of years, it's a big deal. You know what I mean? It means a lot to her. So we've been doing a lot of reading literature with her. They're talking it through. Literature is a really powerful too as well. Like just
Yeah.
a lot of people have there's a lot of great stuff out there to kind of give her ideas of how to handle things. So it's been a learning experience for us as parents,
Yeah.
right? But I think we've tried to give her resources and strategies to help her walk her way through it. But you're
That's
right. You're absolutely right not to belittle it at all.
right, right. Because your gut reactions, why are you so upset?
I know because they're not paying taxes, they don't have mortgages, but in their world, it's still a big, it's still a big deal.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, Christine, thank you so much for your time. This was wonderful. I think people get a lot of value out of this. And next, this first session, this first half year, I'm having my guests discuss mindsets. The second half of the year, starting July, I'm asking the same guests to come back to talk about habits, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I'm welcoming you to come back to the Power Mindset if you would choose to have another conversation. We would love to have you.
Super. It sounds like fun. It was wonderful to see you.
All right, Christina, you take care. Thanks again for joining us.
You too. Bye bye.